Did you know there's a superpower for learning English vocabulary? To be honest, it's not much of a secret nowadays, and you may well have come across it before. But many teachers either forget to use it or don't know how to apply it properly, and I think that's a shame. Not only is it super effective, but it's really fun too. I'm Will from Enchanted ESL, and in this video I'll be talking about physical gestures in vocab learning. I'll explain why they're so powerful and how you can apply them the right way in your classroom. Using gestures in the ESL classroom is always a great idea. They activate the locomotor system, which is a hugely developed and significant part of the brain. Think of the term muscle memory. That's where we do a movement so often that it just becomes automatic. And that's kind of what we're aiming for when we tie physical gestures to vocabulary. It's all about creating strong, stable, and varied pathways to a particular piece of information. The faster we can travel to that information, the better. I explain my neural road model in much more detail in another video, up there and in the description, but in brief we want to activate different aspects of the minds to strengthen mental connections. We can do this with images and sounds, but another powerful and instinctive way is with physical movement, activating the whole body, not just the mind. Children especially love getting up and about, dancing, acting things out. Much of our language is physical anyway, so why not harness that? I'd like to point out that this idea is not new. It's been around for a while, most commonly seen nowadays in the Total Physical Response Teaching Method, or TPR. Lots of people love TPR. It's a whole system that attaches physical movements to language, so every word gets a gesture. But it's not for everyone. First of all, it's mostly targeted at young children and beginners. And while it is effective, I think it spends a little bit too much time focusing on gestures and excludes all of the other teaching methods. So what I like to do is take the best parts of TPR and apply them discerningly to my teaching. Here's how it works. When you teach a new word, do so with a physical gesture that transmits the meaning of that word. Let's say you're teaching the word apple. You say the word apple and then do a gesture. Alright, apple is a very simple word. So what about offer? We can extend our hands forward like this. What about angry? Look. Or imagine. Notice that with some of those actions, I did a sound as well. In my last video, I went over how to use sounds for vocab learning, and sounds and gestures go hand in hand. And yes, I know what you're thinking. I chose those examples specifically because they had good gestures that go with them. But you say, not every word has a gesture to go with it. And you're absolutely right. Not every word needs to have a gesture. This is where I differ from Total Physical Response. If a word doesn't have a clear and obvious gesture, don't use one. Can you think of a good gesture for life, or rhyme, or mango? If not, use an image or a sound instead. The truth is, some words go better with gestures than others. And in some cases, a gesture might arise naturally from your students. I've seen the same action for dig arise multiple times independently with different groups, without me ever doing that gesture. It's just a word that has a gesture built into it. And those words are fantastic. But for all the others, there are specific ways to get your students invested in the gesture. If you're finding the video helpful so far, hit the like button to support the channel. Thanks. First of all, don't force gestures. If students don't get on with a particular gesture because it doesn't seem natural or correct for them, don't make them do it every time. They'll just resent it. Second, introduce the gestures in a clear and obvious way so your students can imitate them. If your gesture isn't clear and obvious, don't use it. And ideally, it should be easy to do when sitting down. The third thing is to play games to naturally create and embed new gestures. My favourite one of these is memory chain. Very simply, you start with a sentence and each student on their turn adds something extra to the sentence. For example, I went to the park and I saw a chicken. Next turn, I went to the park and I saw a chicken and a girl playing basketball. Next turn, I went to the park and I saw a chicken, a girl playing basketball, and an angry tiger. This goes on, adding more and more items to the list. But the other students, when it's not their turn, can help out the student to remember the items that have come before by doing the gesture. It becomes like a mini dance routine. And that's something else you can do. Create a kind of dance story with gestures to express what happens. You can say the words and then students follow. Or alternatively, you do the gestures and the students have to say what the words are. Another activity is silent stories. Give small groups of students a list of words and they have to create a silent story with all of those words acted out. Then the other students in the class can guess what the words were. The final thing is try to use the gesture in your language whenever the word comes up. Even if students don't use it all the time, when they see you doing it, it will activate mirror neurons in their mind, which will strengthen the memory even further. Wow, that was a lot. By now you can see how super powerful gestures are when learning vocabulary. But there's another secret method that nobody ever uses, and in the right situation, it can be the single most powerful vocab learning tool. It's all about emotions. Find out what on earth I mean by that and how to use emotions in your teaching by watching this video here. But for now, I've been Will from Enchanted ESL, wishing you all the joy and success in your teaching. See ya!